everybody, this is Adam. I'm here with a bit of news that I'm not entirely excited about, as it's you don't go into business and spend a lot of time trying to figure out a name for your business only to have to be forced to change it at some point. But unfortunately, sometimes that happens, and sometimes Goliath beats David, and so that's an instance of what's happening here. And so what used to be known as the Game Grid Arcade is now going to be known as Arcade Galactic. Now, to give you a little bit of explanation, because obviously you'd be wondering why would a business change its name after it's been established for 12 years or so. Well, when I first had this idea, I got it when I was a kid watching Tron and seeing the character Kevin Flynn own his own arcade, and a lot of those concepts from Tron. I really enjoyed the idea of the game grid and arcades being connected like that with that world. And so when in 2007, when I was doing my business plan and doing my research and getting my company established, I did a search for the game grid term. There was no copyright, there was no trademark, there was no disputes in the state of Utah that I saw, and so I registered as Game Grid Arcade. And then, of course, in 2008, that's when we opened our doors. And there was another company in Utah called Game Grid, but at the time, I don't recall ever coming across anything along those lines, and there was no trademark. But eventually they expanded. They currently have 8 locations, and they're not an arcade. They're a board game and card shop franchise, but they do have an established franchise, the Game Grid franchise, and they say that they did get the trademark for Game Grid from Disney. Now, doing some research about that, I see myself with the state of Utah as having registered Game Grid first. As I mentioned, in 2007, their stuff shows up in 2011, 2014. They do have a trademark for Game Grid as a logo, but I'm not sure if that covered the term Game Grid itself. But as they've expanded, as we've done some expansion, there has been some confusion out there, and so I mean, I hate to really do this, but again, if we took it to court, I talked to some attorneys about this, I could end up spending a lot of money that I just don't have to fight this, and they're a much bigger company than I am. And so as much as I hate it, because I loved the Game Grid concept, I think it fits better with arcades than it does card games, because again, Tron, and that's where Game Grid came from as far as I know, but they own the trademark. They did buy it from Disney, and I wasn't violating their logo, anything like that, and so again, it probably could be disputed in court. Maybe I'd win, but I just don't have the money and resources to fight something like that. So, new name comes down to Arcade Galactic. And why would I pick that name out of the many potential names out there? Well, there were some good things thrown around, but they'd already been used in other states, and you do want to try and find an identity that's unique to you. One of the things that I like beyond video games and things like Tron is outer space astronomy. Always been into that, and my brother, who works here as well, you might have met before, he's also into that stuff, and so it will be a universe of fun and games here that we're still going to be doing what we do, which is offering retro games, brand new games, pinball machines of course. Some of them have a space or intergalactic theme already, some don't. Of course, just because of that name doesn't mean we have to be just space games, but instead of Arcade Universal, Galactic just sounds better. And some people did throw out, why didn't you do Arcade Galactica? But then, I'm just getting out of this dispute over the Game Grid name, so I don't want to anger anybody that uses Galactica, like Universal Studios, who owns Battlestar Galactica, and so Galactic it is, Arcade Galactic it is. And so do appreciate everybody's support out there over the years. It's, again, still the same business, just going to be a name change, and so we will have our site pointing to arcadegalactic.com, and that should be set up soon. We also are going to have to get a new sign, which we're working on, and change social media. I've already changed Twitter over, and YouTube should be changed as of posting this video as well. Although I do want to get into some additions here, and this on a positive note, might as well. And so this past Friday, from when I'm recording this, we did go driving around the valleys, Utah Valley and Salt Lake Valley, picking up 4 older game machines. And so let me focus on those really quick, and then the next video will probably be the Exa Arcadia, as I'm expecting that to arrive any time now. It did ship out from Japan this past Monday, and they said 2 to 5 days on shipment, and so it's Friday as I record this, so I don't know if they do deliveries on Saturday, so if we don't have it, if I don't get it today or somehow tomorrow, then hopefully Monday. But either way, that's going to be exciting. But let's show you the 4 games that we added to added to Arcade Galactic. I almost said Game Grid Arcade. To Arcade Galactic here this past Friday. And the very first game that we added is a beloved classic, and that is something from Sega Afterburner. Afterburner 2 is what's in the machine, I believe. But this is from 1987, and as an upright game machine, it has these unique set of controls. So you have this awesome yoke style joystick, and of course your throttle for your speed. Now there is an issue with the monitor, as you can see here. I did order a cap kit for this, so as soon as that arrives, I'll be yanking the circuit board out of there and adding the new components in there to make this look a little better. Of course, probably could use a tube rejuve as well, and some degaussing, but we'll get this fixed and going, but did clean it up a little bit, and so now you'll have Sega's Afterburner. Also from Sega is Virtua Fighter 2, and for a long time I've wanted to have a Virtua Fighter game here, but just never really came across one. Now I don't know which is really the favorite version of people here in Salt Lake for the Virtua Fighter series. I know it's not as well known as something like Tekken or Street Fighter, but it's still pretty cool. If you're not familiar with this, the first Virtua Fighter was Sega's foray into 3D fighting games instead of 2D ones, and this is definitely Sega's most famous fighting franchise, but it's more like realistic karate than magical karate like you get in Street Fighter. Like, there's no fireballs and other magical effects, and so it's a little bit more visceral in that regard. But Virtua Fighter 2 is a nice step up from the original Virtua Fighter. As the original was flat shaded polygons, this had textures, and released in 1995. It was a pretty awesome game. So we'll have to see at one point if anybody wants us to update the software to something like Virtua Fighter 4 or Final Tune, or I don't know, Virtua Fighter 5 would work in this cabinet, but there's an extra fighter for the fighting games that we have. For pickup number 3, we found something that this was kind of a grab it on a whim sort of thing, as I was getting something else, but some of you may remember from years ago when we were the Game Grid Arcade, and we were in our second location. We had Strikers 1945 2, and so this is the first one. I still have the Strikers 1945 2 board somewhere. I just need to dig it out. I guess I'll throw it out to you, the fans and users at the Game Grid Arcade Galactic. Gosh, it's going to take some getting used to, sorry. As to whether or not you want this one or if you want the second one, but still, this came in a Mortal Kombat cabinet. Looks like I do need to do a little bit of work on the monitor. Probably a cap kit would also work for this one, but being in a Mortal Kombat cabinet originally, those things are beasts. But if you've never played this one, it's fantastic. If you liked 1942 or 1943 by Capcom, this is kind of like that, but it's better, in my opinion, a lot better. And just a lot of fun, a lot of detail, a lot of different planes that you can choose from with different abilities. It doesn't get too crazy hectic with bullets flying at you, a little bit, but not like some of Cave's bullet hell shooters. So this one's a lot of fun. And last but definitely not least is this rare gem that the guy who was selling this was also selling the Strikers 1945, and I figured, hey, what the heck, let's just get both. But this is Dragon Sabre. Now, if you've never heard of this one, and no, there's a few of you out there who probably haven't, because it is pretty rare. I don't know exactly how many units were made, but it was fewer than its prequel, which was Dragon Spirit. Now, a lot of people know Dragon Spirit because it got a lot of console ports back in the day. Personally, I remember Dragon Spirit on the NES. I didn't know it was an arcade game until years later. But Dragon Sabre, the sequel, which came out in 1990, Dragon Spirit came out in 1987. This only got ported to the TurboGrafx 16 or PC Engine, and I think mainly it was only in Japan that it really got a lot of coverage there, and not so much for the TurboGrafx here in the States. And so it's just not something that a lot of people are familiar with. Now, what's different about it, other than just being called Dragon Sabre instead of Dragon Spirit, as you can see here, it has two-player co-op. Dragon Spirit only allowed one player at a time. You could take turns, but yeah, this allows you both to play at the same time. And if you're just not familiar with the series, it's a scrolling shoot 'em up, and it's kind of like Xevious, where you have bombs. So there are ground targets and then there are air targets, and so you need to use your bombs to hit targets on the ground, including dragon eggs, which are power-ups. And then of course you have the flying targets, and as you power up your dragon, you can get additional heads, so you can get up to 3 heads to get additional coverage on your shots. But also there's different abilities, which I don't remember if Dragon Spirit had the different abilities, but this one, there's like electrical firepower, ice firepower, I can't remember if there's any others, but this one is a really, really fun game. So just because you haven't heard of it before, don't pass it up. It's really awesome, and so it's just too bad that it was rare and kind of unknown. But it also has some scaling effects in there, and also some of the levels you have to watch out for the walls as they'll close in on you. But overall, again, really fun, and love to see some high scores set on this one, as well as the other games that we have. So that's that. Again, when you come into the Valley Fair Mall, it will say Game Grid Arcade for a little while, because I'm still working on getting the sign finalized, as that is an unfortunate extra cost that we're just going to have to eat. But soon, before too long, it will say Arcade Galactic, and I'll be getting everything else changed over, and hopefully I'll keep catching myself, and instead of calling it by the old name, call it by the new name. So just throw out there to, if you know anybody in the Salt Lake City, West Valley City area, West Jordan, South Jordan, Draper, all those places, want some arcade gaming goodness, classics, games from every genre pretty much. We have fighting games, shoot 'em up games, driving games, light gun games, pinball machines. We try to have a little bit of everything out there, beat 'em ups. Come to Arcade Galactic at the Valley Fair Mall in West Valley City, Utah, and come and have some fun. It's just 4 tokens for $1. We're not changing that. Our tokens, of course, will have the old name on them for a while, but next time we order tokens, we'll get the new logo on there. But again, thank you for your support, and let's have a great year.